we take a look at number 6, our radical is nice and isolated. There's nothing on the outside of our radical, so we can go ahead and square both sides to get rid of it. By squaring, it cancels out that radical, and we're just left with what's underneath. And 5 squared is 25. Whenever you have an x squared, that's a pretty decent indicator that you're going to end up having to factor to solve. In order to factor to solve, your quadratic has to equal 0. So I'm going to move everything over to the side with the x squared. So I'm going to take this 25 and move it over to the side with the x squared. We want to keep our x squared positive because it makes it easier to factor. So then we're left with x squared minus 10x. 25s end up canceling, equals 0. 25 minus 25 is 0, so it just cancels out. We still need a factor here, but we have 2 terms. So if we look at our terms, they're not perfect squares, so we're not going to use difference of squares, but we can take out a GCF. They both have at least one x, so I'm going to take out an x. And then when I write my leftovers, I'm left with x minus 10. If I look at my leftovers, they're still not perfect squares, so that means I'm done factoring. So I'm going to set each piece equal to 0. I'm going to say x equals 0 and x minus 10 equals 0. This is already solved for. X is already by itself, so there's one solution. And actually, I'm going to erase that just in case that happens to be an extraneous solution. We don't know yet. We haven't checked. There's one answer. Here, I'm going to get x by itself. I'm going to add 10 to both sides, so x is equal to 10. So this time around, we have 2 possible solutions, so we have to do 2 checks. So I'm going to check 0 first to check both answers. So I'm going to take 0 and plug it into the original. So we get 0 squared minus 10 times 0 plus 25. We're going to see if that equals 5. Well, underneath our radical, if you plug that in your calculator, 0 squared minus 10 times 0 plus 25 is 25. And yes, the square root of 5 is 5. So 0 is a solution. It worked out. 5 is equal to 5. Now I'm going to go ahead and check 10. And we have to check all our possible answers. So now we're going to take 10 and plug it in. See if it works out. When we plug what's underneath the radical in our calculator, 10 squared minus 10 times 10 plus 25 ends up equaling 25. Same as the last one, we end up getting 5 is equal to 5. So both are possible answers. Okay, there we go. There's problem number 6.